Hey everyone, today we launch a new Kickstarter. This video is going to include the same text of my blog post that's covering it, but I thought I'd just get on here and tell it to you verbally because, hey, who doesn't love a little YouTube video showing off all the cool things that we're doing? So this is for the Stormlight Minis and painted figurines. Having this Kickstarter come out affords me a chance to talk about a few things related to behind the scenes of how this Kickstarter started and why we partnered with Brotherwise, and how I'm kind of trying to approach crowdfunding in general in the future. I want to be accountable to you, and I want to be aware of potential issues surrounding crowdfunding, and particularly in light of the success I've been having with it lately. I apologize in advance if this rambles a little bit. I've got several points that I want to make, but I hope they'll all come together in the end. So, part one, the quick version. Before I dig in too deeply, I want to talk about the Kickstarter itself just a little bit. Our friends at Brotherwise have been working hard on preparing this Kickstarter for well over a year, and I'm extremely pleased with the product we've managed to put together. So I really hope you'll go take a look at the Kickstarter and consider backing it. They have been a fantastic partner, and they've gone above and beyond in trying to get the characters right, often going back to revise a dozen or more times as Isaac and I have requested changes. I'll talk more about what is cool about this Kickstarter later, but I want to be upfront and give a good plug for what we're doing here. The short version of what I'll explain in detail below is this. I'm aware that it's a little cheeky of me to be doing a second Kickstarter this year, while everyone is still waiting for their secret projects. I'm going to do my best to mitigate potential problems, but if this is a concern of yours, I hear you. It's a concern of mine too. We'll try, as always, to be worthy of the trust you show in us. However, this campaign should be very fun. In future videos, we'll be going into depth about how we arrived at the models we created for each of these minis. Even if you're not interested in the minis, I think you'll enjoy looking through the Kickstarter page to see my vision for each of the characters. And in the coming days, we'll be showing off a great deal of concept art that I think you'll all find very interesting. Part 2. On crowdfunding and responsibility. I can safely say nobody in our company anticipated the explosive success of our secret project's Kickstarter. I'll admit, I knew the seed of something incredible was there, and the showman in me was excited to do my best to make that all come together in a way that would take the world by storm. But even I didn't expect to get a high storm instead. Our previous Kickstarter before that one had raised around $8 million when all the final orders were in. This one did $45 million. That's a huge show of faith from all of you, and we're ready to earn it. We've been working very hard behind the scenes to get everything ready for you come January. I think you're all going to be very satisfied with what you get. So why do another Kickstarter so soon? Well, the truth is, this Kickstarter with the Stormlight Minis was in the works longer than the Secret Project campaign was. I didn't hit on the idea of doing a Kickstarter for the Secret Projects until late last year, and as I considered it, I got increasingly excited. I'd been wondering how in the world I was going to get those books to people, and this seemed the perfect way. That, however, risked undermining the Kickstarter we already had been planning for the Stormlight Minis. This Minis Kickstarter had originally been planned for late spring or early summer. After we decided to do the secret projects, however, Brotherwise kindly agreed to push their project back a few months to give some space. That also gave us a little more time to prepare the visuals and the models, and I'm glad we had that extra time. We've used it well. That said, an interesting phenomenon happens when you suddenly have the most popular Kickstarter of all time. Companies really want to work with you, as access to people's attention is one of the most precious commodities in the world right now. However, I would prefer that they not see you all as a resource to be exploited. I just want to do cool things, tell great stories, and, if I'm lucky, make the world a little better in the process, primarily by making lives better through story. It would be very easy after our success to go crazy with products. That's not our intention, and I promise that to you. At the same time, I have lofty aspirations, and I do want to explore crowdfunding further. So here I want to outline a roadmap for you and see what you think of it. Internally, at Dragonsteel, I've presented an idea for going forward. No more than 2 crowdfunding projects a year. One for books, one for another product. We don't have to do 2, and there might not always be 2. But I think this year provides a good model. One Kickstarter primarily for books, like the secret projects, and one for something else, like the minis. Right now, we're looking at a Kickstarter for the Words of Radiance Leatherbound next year. To address those who are curious about this, no, we don't need to release the Stormlight Leatherbounds via a platform like Kickstarter, but we've found that doing so makes our lives much, much easier. The thing is, crowdfunding websites have strong, useful behind-the-scenes architecture for things like fulfillment and customer support. It's really hard to gauge how much of something to make. For example, we initially thought we might need 25,000 of each secret project. That's what we told the binderies to prepare for. We ended up needing 150,000 of each. Kickstarter makes managing all of this so much easier. So while we don't need the funding side of Kickstarter to make our projects a reality, we have an acute need for their infrastructure and pre-order frameworks. In the future, we intend to continue crowdfunding Stormlight Leatherbounds, but not the other Leatherbounds we do. That gives us roughly one of those every 3 years. The other 2 years between, I'd like to do other book-related projects. The Hoyd Storybook Collection, which is a set of picture books and or coffee table style books that include The Dog and the Dragon, The Wandersail, and The Girl Who Looked Up, all illustrated. That is something that I'd really like to do. On the product side, we'd like to do a Stormlight pen and paper RPG and a Stormlight board game, two of the most requested items you have been asking us to do. Now, if it needs to be said, I want to point out that we don't expect to be breaking our Kickstarter record anytime soon. The secret projects were basically a special lightning in the bottle with just the right way of presenting them and a huge surprise to propel people to pay attention. So please, let's not set expectations too high for these other Kickstarters. The goal isn't to smash records, it never has been. It's to make cool things. As always, we hope you will participate. But I want to note that our goal is not to drive revenue through a sense of FOMO, or fear of missing out. While we might be able to offer some special pricing and exclusive extras via an initial campaign, our goal will always be to provide post-Kickstarter versions of the core products to people who want them later. This also applies to the minis, which we hope to have in stock and for sale for many years to come. Anyway, this is our model going forward. 2 crowdfunding campaigns at most in a year, spaced out. And this brings me to Brotherwise. Part 3. Why Brotherwise? We met the fine folks at Brotherwise when they came to us and pitched their storytelling game Call to Adventure, for which they wanted to do a Stormlight expansion. We get lots of requests like this, but this company's excitement, experience, and product stood out to us, so we said yes. Over the next few years, we found them one of the most knowledgeable and responsive companies we've ever worked with. We've had some great partners over the years, but Brotherwise really seemed to get us in the things that we wanted to do. As we thought more and more about it, debating internally, we realized something. We have been getting a ton of requests from people wanting to make things with us, but we don't want to say yes to very many of them. We want to make fewer products better rather than flood the market. The perfect thing we wanted to do, we realized, was find a few key partners that work with us really well, then continue with them to make more things. And so, early this month, we entered a full partnership with Brotherwise for this Kickstarter. We're doing it together rather than as part of a traditional licensing deal where my company just sells the rights and waits to see what is made. Which brings me to my next point. Part 4. The process. It's been quite the ride to bring these Stormlight Minis to life. As I said, we've had some great partners in the past, but one thing my team and I really wanted to do with these minis was level up in terms of quality and continuity. To that end, Isaac, who heads my art department and works on creative development for the company, spent long hours working with concept artists, getting versions of the characters that were as close to possible as my vision to be used for the minis. This still might shift over time. Like Batman has evolved, I can see us moving characters one way or another. But after hundreds of sketches and the efforts of half a dozen artists, we've been able to present a solid vision to Brotherwise. Rather than just saying, here's the description of the characters from the books, do what you can, we were able to say, here's a dozen sketches of poses, expressions, and looks for characters pulled as best we can straight from Brandon's brain. I've learned a ton in this process, and it's really helped my mental picture of the characters to get them concepted this way. In addition, it's provided us with a great deal of material we can use for other projects. In the past, I often didn't want to give artists definitive depictions of the characters, as I enjoyed seeing what different artists come up with from my descriptions. Over the last few years, though, I've come to realize that the books and the Cosmere are big enough that it would be better to be more clear about my vision. This shouldn't be seen as me telling you, readers, that you can't view the characters however you want. I still want to see your fan art of how the character is in your head. But if we're going to be doing products like an RPG, these minis, and a board game, I'd rather that the characters be consistent across those mediums. It feels right to be doing this now. Part 5. The Kickstarter itself. So, that's where my thoughts have been lately. I hope you're still with me. I know this has been a long one. There are a few things that we wanted to do for this campaign. Obviously, we wanted to create a group of gaming-ready, unpainted miniatures. That was the main idea of this Kickstarter. As such, the core tiers of this campaign are all for unpainted minis in packs based around the first 4 books in the Stormlight archive. 6 minis per book, with each higher pledge level adding 6 new ones. But we also wanted people who aren't gamers to have something they can grab. This is why we have 4 painted figurines done at a bigger scale: Kaladin, Jasna, Adolin, and Zeth. And one thing I'm super excited about is the even larger statue. It's expensive, but it's something I pitched to the team. I've always wanted one of those big desk statues like you commonly see at people's workspaces, often depicting a superhero. At my request then, we've designed and included an extremely cool, large-scale desk statue of Zeth and Kaladin clashing, which was my concept. Not all of the designs have been revealed. We're keeping a few to show off during the campaign. So over the next 30 days, you can check back as we unveil designs for Eshonai, Taravangian, Leshwi, and others. We've tried to make something in this for every Stormlight fan, whether you paint minis or just want something cool for your bookshelf. Conclusion. I take very seriously the faith and trust all of you have shown in me, and I'm trying to demonstrate that. I want to be responsible in the way we approach crowdfunding and never leave you hanging, waiting for updates that never seem to come, and products that are ever delayed. I hope that you find what we're doing exciting rather than overwhelming. But as always, I do want to hear from you. Let me know over the coming years if you think we're doing too much. I have a lot of stories I want to tell and things I want to create. Thank you so much for joining me on the ride. Brandon.